Brilliant. Can you see me now?
That's better.
Unfortunately, I can't see you guys at all, so that's going to be fun times. Let me just try one other thing.
Okay, no worries.
So I've got a little Wi-Fi hotspot out here outside, Richard. Is it all right? It looks pretty dark on my screen. Do I need to move somewhere else, or is this okay for you?
It's fine. You're a little dark because I think just because of the bright background,
Right.
but it's fading up and down as the clouds go over the sun.
Okay, maybe.
Hey, Richard, I might just do something and leave and then come back in. Is that
look, no worries at all.
Right? I'll try that and then I'll come back.
No worries. Sorry for the delay, everyone. We'll be up and running as quickly as we can here. We're just polishing a few little details there to make sure that you can hear us and see us as best as possible. Now, as always, if you're having trouble with the feed on Zoom, or you've got colleagues that aren't on Zoom or can't access Zoom, we know some companies do have a little bit of an issue with it. I am posting in the chat down below the YouTube link. That's also been emailed out to you if you registered. Alternatively, feel free just to tell people to go to our YouTube channel, which if you jump on YouTube and search for Auto Media Group, or alternatively, it will be up in a few moments as a live story on the autotalk.co.nz website. That will be up and running. So let me just see if we can bring Mike back in there. Brilliant, Mike's back. Okay, Mike Sexton. This is going to be fun with two mics.
Two mics from Mark. Good luck with that, Richard.
Richard, can you see me by any chance?
Well, we can hear you, but we can't see you, mate.
Don't you love technology?
You just go with the other camera and you'll just have to talk blind. I think better that you can't see us than no one can see you.
Fantastic. Right, there you go. Hopefully that's okay. I'll rely on you guys to give me any prompts if you can't see me. Am I doing all right?
Yeah, you're doing fine. You're doing fine. Look, let's kick off. We're seeing the numbers rise pretty quickly here on the Zoom feed and on the YouTube feed, and of course people can watch this live afterwards if they wish to. So we have a panel of two people here with us today. We have Mike Sexton, the Managing Director of Mark Group New Zealand, and Mike Pratt, the Director of Business Development for Mark Group New Zealand. Thanks for coming along, Mike and Mike. Any thoughts on the best way to distinguish as we have this chat today?
You can call me Mike P and Mike S. Maybe, mate, rather than throwing nicknames out there because they can get a little bit rude at time and we need to explain the backstory. So.
Okay, let's not. Now, thanks for coming back, Mike P. You, of course, were on our session the other day with the team from Autoplay, which is, of course, part of your guys' impressive empire and product suite. Now, today we're talking about some of the overlaps a little bit when we talked about last time was managing leads. Now we're talking about communicating with customers, and obviously that is taking on a whole new meaning in this COVID-19 level 3 world. And I think where we're going at the moment is the technology and the systems that people are picking up now will, even passing to COVID, become the new normal. And as we've discussed so many times so far, part of that is because all these things that we're discussing now have always been best practice. But COVID-19 is really starting to force us to look at these things and look at how we integrate them into our business and how we make them work. And that's partially because customers are being forced to change what they're expecting. I mean, I'll put this to both of you. What are you guys seeing in how customers are changing their expectations of how dealers and the industry are communicating with them?
Who wants to go first? You want to go first, Mr. Sexton?
Sorry, mate. I just had a little glitch in the old audio there. Sorry, Richard. I think I'm back online again. Can you just do
okay.
back into that question?
Yeah, we're just discussing how customers' expectations are changing from what they expect, and how a dealership or anyone in the industry, for that matter, communicates with them now that we're in this new world.
Yeah, look, I think if one thing's for certain, there's no particular certainty in a lot of cases is what we're finding. And if anything, I think the requirement to be nimble in terms of our comms with our customers is more prevalent than ever. And I think that, we're finding that a lot when we do connect with our customers. I think we're really focused and have been right now on, and over the last kind of 2 to 4 weeks, I'm really taking some time to connect as best we can with our customers via kind of multiple different mediums. And I think from what we are finding, there's I guess a real craving now to try and connect. I guess in a more face-to-face mechanism wherever possible, but I think people's appetite to communicate digitally is obviously has really changed. I think though, people are craving, and our customers particularly are really craving kind of information and insights. So we've been really focused on trying to deliver those to them, because that visualization, I think, of what's going on out in the world has been somewhat limited. I think alongside that though, just the content overload in a lot of cases we've found from talking to our customers has really forced relevance, I think, more than ever. And really being conscious in communication. It's taking the time to sort of be respectful and aware of the situation we're in. And when we do communicate, it's all about having simple, clear messages, but importantly, are things that can help right now. So yeah, a lot of variety though, and you need to be nimble.
Why is it more important to kind of know your customers and what they want more than ever at the moment?
Oh, you go.
No, you're right. You're right. It's interesting. I think everyone approaches COVID from a different angle. People have got different circumstance in their own life going on. We see it across our teams throughout New Zealand, throughout the world. So kind of understanding that not everyone's going to approach it from maybe a more brazen mindset that a lot of Kiwis, the she'll be right kind of attitude, is not everyone thinks that way. So understanding customer sentiment, being empathetic with how they're feeling about the whole situation, I think is a key platform to sort of use as a baseline in your comms to then try and communicate with the customers and get some of your own agendas kind of across the lines. So I think all of us as businesses, we've all got a lot of information on our existing customers, and we've got some pretty good ideas around how we target new customers. So thinking about that information in our approach and being pretty nimble, like Mike was saying, is pretty key at the moment.
What are you guys seeing as kind of, what's the key points around communicating with the activity? Sorry, I'm going to rephrase this. We've seen a lot of communications go out from businesses to their customers lately about what's been going on, how they're approaching it. I guess they're trying to stay relevant and timely on this stuff. Why is it important that businesses seem to want to get that stuff out to their customers?
Oh, look, I think everyone is learning a lot through this process, and I think sometimes the risk is we feel like we've kind of got to over communicate. And I think everyone's trying to work out who they are and what their product looks like in such a sort of a new world. And I think one of the things we're really finding, and I think trying to stay true to, and I think it's important, for all businesses personally, is that I don't think there's a need right now to try and change who we are and change how we do things. The relationships have been built up over a number of years in a lot of cases, and I think going to our customers in a real way and really from a sort of a bit of caring and so on as well to understand their situation has been really important. And I think if it's finding that balance, I think of, there's evolution that goes on. It's just trying to make sure that, when we're communicating with customers and we're connecting in that initial phase, we've kind of been through a couple of different phases through this COVID experience to go spend some time connecting and understanding with our customers, but then using the old 2 ears, 1 mouth approach, trying to listen as best we can and then react accordingly. And oftentimes we're finding there's just a willingness really to be able to connect with people and products and tools and services that they kind of know and trust. And I think trust is a massive component as we go through this COVID experience and then look to come out the other side, is how we're reinforcing that trust, that relationship in the comms, and that level of certainty in such an uncertain kind of environment. Hopefully that's kind of making some sense. I think there's a bit of a risk to try and completely change who we are and what we do. I think it's more of an evolution mindset that is tweaking, adjusting to deliver your product or your service or your offering in a way that's maybe more relevant right now. We've tried to do that with a number of tools that we provide through the group, whether it be loyalty or lead management platform and tools and solutions. It's around evolving to suit your customers and what you've heard when you've consulted. So trying to take that approach.
Mm-hmm. What are you guys assisting the industry with at the moment? I mean, there's a lot of sudden dramatic change going on. You guys got a lot of products that assist with that. I mean, what are you putting out there to help those guys, and what are you finding is being picked up?
I guess there's I'll jump on that one, Mike. It's very different across, I guess, the 2 core businesses we've got in the New Zealand market. So
perhaps you should just quickly explain what those businesses are to give people a little more scope as to what we're talking about.
Yeah. No worries. So under Mark Group, we've got 5 entities that we operate throughout the world. So without going into detail on all of those companies, we've got 2 of those businesses are headquartered in the New Zealand market, being AutoPlay, which is our lead management organisation. So working with around 85 to 90% of franchise dealers throughout New Zealand and many different brands across their networks to help drive sales, lead management strategy, data insight, integration. So that's kind of one part of the equation. And then Smart Loyalty is our business to business loyalty platform that operates in a big way in automotive, but also through in construction and agriculture. So Smart Loyalty has many different loyalty products, both coalition, where we support industries and we bring multi different sets of partners together to reward a common audience. One example being the Get Genuine, Get Rewards program in the automotive panel and mechanical space in New Zealand. So where all the brands reward panel shops and mechanics for buying genuine parts. So that's an example of one of our coalition programs. But then we also do quite a few sort of bespoke, customized loyalty solutions for brands through into their dealer networks to help incentivize people on the front line. So, so there's quite a lot we sort of cover across sales, service, and after sales in New Zealand within those two businesses. So is that enough of an overview, Richard? I think then we can sort of go and jump into your question.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, what within that range of stuff has kind of come to light or moved or been changed or adapted to really help people cope and move forward at the moment?
Yeah, so under Mark Group, Mike referenced our own internal framework earlier, which was we connected with the market, we listened, and then we by listening to what everyone's sort of pain points were, understanding ourselves, we then we basically stopped both businesses in their tracks from a product development point of view, which is something we've never done before. And we said, right, all of our partners and all our industries are hurting at the moment. So what are we going to do that's going to help them come into this thing in a good state? So AutoPlay, for example, we've spent a lot of time and effort and investment in our contact tracing modules, customer disclaimers. So these specific pieces of technology are going to be really important when we come into level 2. Alongside that, within the AutoPlay product suite, you've always been able to do test drives and appraisals and a lot of these very core things that are part of the road to a sale. But now we've activated the technology so it can be done in a contactless manner. So all of our dealerships can use AutoPlay to facilitate a contactless test drive form now, where the customer can sort of sign on their own device all the waivers and everything they need to do to be able to complete a test drive. So there's been some fundamental technology changes for our business on AutoPlay's side of the equation. For Smart Loyalty, we've got an incredibly strong platform to communicate to customers in a personal and relevant manner. So the secret behind loyalty programs is that they give you a bank account, which is a points balance, which is a license to communicate with the customer. And because customers in a business environment are usually sitting on quite a few points, they're usually very interested in the messages we send down the loyalty funnel. So we've been positioning Smart Loyalty to help our partners communicate better with their customers and get the key messages out that they need to get out to their customers. The other thing, just quickly, Mike, I know you'll have a couple of ideas on this, but the other thing with the Smart Loyalty side of thing is you've got businesses throughout New Zealand collectively sitting on millions of dollars worth of points they've earned over the last year or two. So at a time of need, enabling those businesses to use those points on business essentials like those and other services that sort of keep them going has been really powerful and a really strong thing to do on behalf of our many partners. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think you've nailed on there, Mike. I think what we tried to do, Richard, really when it boiled down to it is we felt it was really important to be pretty decisive, be respectful but decisive in terms of our actions to support pretty quickly to the market. So as a group globally, actually, but obviously specifically in New Zealand, we made the decision to waive program administration fees for all our partners through April and May to really respond straight away where we thought our clients needed it most. And I think that kind of goes back a little bit to what I was alluding to before around, what's relevant to them and what's going to help now in a time of kind of uncertainty or challenge like we've gone through recently. So we really tried to make sure we could assist straight away. And I think a lot of that comes down to when you're considering communication and a big part of our ethos and the way we operate is trying to focus on the relationship, but that's got to start with retention. and providing tools and so on right now that can help them and can help us retain the relationship with them as well. And it's the same with, I'm sure, the people listening on this chat is, what can you do to retain? I'm sure that's a big part of the mindset. But alongside that, what Mike was alluding to, specifically in the loyalty part of the business that we have, a lot of our members are small to medium-sized enterprises and businesses hurting massively through this, and trying to be nimble with the loyalty product and let them use their points for things they've never been able to use them for, whether it's to pay some supplier invoices, whether it's to get some, Prezi cards to help pay for groceries or whatever it might be. We also put a freeze on expiry of points. Some normal processes that would be in play, but things to try and help in a more immediate way. But that came from sort of that initial listening to the customer and really trying to anchor back to our values and our principles around, good people trying to do good things for the community, empathy, the Kiwi approach. Like some of these are the ways that we operate as a business. And I think, again, anchoring back to those in your time of challenge, your customers respect that, I think. I find in the feedback we've had has been really positive around that, to say, hey, you listened and you acted in a decisive manner that could help us straight away. And importantly, I think the other feedback we've got and the really good learning is being proactive with it. So not reactive in the comms. The big appreciation we've seen has been, hey, you came to us with support when we needed it. And it was in a style that was relevant and appropriate that they wanted to be communicated in. So it just goes back. A lot of these kind of key words keep coming out around simplicity, relevance, and meaningful support. So we've been really, really pleased with the feedback, and obviously some big decisions we had to make in a pretty short space of time. The tools, sorry, I'll just touch on one other component that I was really proud of, was just that response with the tool to support dealers to be able to trace customers, hygiene of vehicles, be able to adhere to the health and safety requirements that the government's put in place to enable operation in level 3. The tools and so on that and solutions and so on are all about enabling operation for us and enabling our customers to do business. And I think when we are communicating with customers, even whether that's someone you're trying to re-engage to sell a vehicle, or a trade parts customer you're trying to get to purchase parts from you, whatever within the dealership or the auto sales channel, being able to provide them with easy ways to do business with you in this period, or enable them to do business with you, is a key thing to anchor to, I've found.
Just a quick one, Richard. I know we spent a bit of time on this question, but and gee whiz, there's nothing like a good old product plug, right? You allow us to do that every once in a while. But hey, on this topic, listening to the industry, talking to so many of our great dealer principals around the country, our brand partners. So one of the key things we got back was, hey, how are we going to know we're recovering when we come out of this thing? So on the AutoPay side again, quickly jumped into thinking, okay, what data have we got on the industry? What benchmarking can we give to the industry coming out of this thing? So I just thought I'd share some stats from the last sort of week or so, if you don't mind. So we work with a lot of companies throughout New Zealand, and we capture a lot of data on leads, test drives, appraisals, sales, all the conversion rates against those, right? So throughout COVID, ever since we fell off a cliff end of March there, we've been, our lead volumes have been at about 10 to 15% of what we would ordinarily see. So between the 21st and the 27th of this month, we saw that we started to tick up to around about 30% of average volumes pre-COVID. So just in the last day, I don't know if we say it's exploded, but I'll share the stats with you. Tuesday saw us go up to 63% of normal pre-COVID volume Yesterday we went up to 70%, and I just checked earlier, and today we're tracking at about 50%. So obviously the activity, the leads are starting to come through. It's way too early to make a call on what that looks like, but we're seeing some good activity in the market with respect to leads. Test drives as well, another metric, they're trending at about 40 to 50% of pre-COVID levels as at yesterday. So like I say, a couple of days in, but that's one of the proactive measures we were able to take by listening to the customers, connecting with them at that time and saying, hey, can you do something so we know how we're coming out of this thing?
Considering the rigmarole required at the moment to undertake a test drive, that's pretty darn impressive that those test drive levels are up that high already.
You probably see, without me diving deep into the data, you see a lot of people, like there have been leads coming through over the last month or so. You know, people have probably been looking at vehicles and wanting to book test drives in for a while. So yeah, like you say, it might be a little bit of a spike for now, and then we'll flatten out a bit. But it's an interesting theme, you know. I can't wait to report on the statistic around test drives at the customer's home or outbound from the dealership versus test drives that happen at the dealership. And we have a look at the conversion metrics against those test drives. So there's going to be some really interesting stats come out of this post-COVID ramp up that we're going to be able to use to guide the ways in which we communicate with customers and engage with customers.
Now, we've heard now about all the wonderful things Mark Group's been doing, and I think there's actually been a lot of interesting stuff people can take from that already. But to be more specific, I mean, what are you guys recommending dealerships, distributors, anyone really in the trade can do to retain their customers through? And we just say disruption, I mean, let alone what the situation is going on now. But what are you recommending businesses can be looking at to protect their customer base during this kind of time?
Well, I think there's probably a number of different sort of tools and solutions. We if we kind of anchor back to you know some principles around you know supporting customers through this time and really trying to maintain the relationships is things like retention really start with customers feeling like you know, you're valuing the business. You've got some meaningful ways that you want to help them do more business. But we're finding a number of the different loyalty programs, particularly that a well executed program and a well executed communications plan can deliver. So you know, in a time like this where communication and getting cut through in terms of the clutter of content that's out there, we find now that you know a mechanism like a rewards platform and loyalty solution can enable that to happen. Now, whether that's between all the way through the sales channel, whether it's OE through to the dealer network or key staff in a dealer network, right through from then dealers out to their trade customers and their retail customers, having something that's a point of difference that you can present to them is quite key. And that falls back quite nicely to kind of the why loyalty strategy and why loyalty as a general business strategy, particularly in uncertain times. And most of that comes down to the fact that I think you've got to be able to provide something that customers will engage with. So tools that can do that via multiple media. We find that via specifically things like the apps that we put together, we see more engagement via members of our programs that engage with those tools like the apps. We see better uptake. We get, you know, through the platforms that are in place, anything upwards of 40% open rates on things like emails. And that can lift up to 70 or 80% open rates for different programs, depending on the solution we're talking about. So I think loyalty as a solution and as a product is kind of perfectly placed and positioned for this kind of environment. Yeah, and I think alongside that, those other mechanisms that are coming to life, like we're hearing some amazing stats now around the use of things like text messaging again. There's some really interesting stuff coming globally out now that showcasing that text messaging is actually a preferred mechanism for consumers to engage with businesses. I think it was a stat out of the US. It was like 90% of consumers would prefer to communicate via text messaging with businesses. Obviously that generation under 30 to 40, utilizing it more than ever. And I think it's things like that we're finding are really creating a lot of additional connection. Obviously, digital's the key mechanism there, but hopefully that's helping. Praddy, anything to elaborate on there?
Yeah, I mean, just thinking like in that maybe in that retail environment, when we talk about loyalty, I don't necessarily think of it always as like a points program. How you deliver, or the average business, right? All businesses are competing on product, price, service, and delivery, right? Those are all the commons across all of us as businesses. So loyalty comes in when you think about what is a point of difference that I can create inside my dealership or inside my group of dealerships or inside my brand, that maybe someone can't emulate easy. So thinking about what you do for customers in that sense, test drives are so important going forward post-COVID, as we recover. So we've now got solutions around how we can facilitate the process of a test drive in contactless manner, but we should be starting to think about how we incentivize test drives, and the industry's got so many more ideas than what I can throw out there. But what can we do to bring a customer onto site? Can we groom their vehicle, their existing vehicle, while it's on site? Can we do an appraisal on it? Is there a free gift, or is there something that's high perceived value, low cost, that we can leave with a customer to get them in to do a test drive? So test drive is just one behavior along the road to a sale that ends in a sales conversion. So loyalty, when you stitch it into that equation, loyalty is about behavior change. So what your end goal is, or the milestone you're chasing. What are the behaviors that lead up to that point? So point of difference, thinking about what you can do to bring customers in. The other thing with loyalty that people often sort of need to think about is cash flow. So it's fair to say there's probably going to be a bit of cash constraint in the market coming out of this thing, with people are prioritizing which bills they pay at consumer and at business level. So if you can think about loyalty, once again, not necessarily points, but something you can do to get your bill prioritized, that's another way that you can secretly give the customer something that they feel good about, but also get the customer to do a behavior that you want them to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think you touched on a really good point there. Praddy, everyone, and I'm sure everyone on this call, as we've done as a group, everyone's looking at their business right now and looking at ways that they want to either do things a bit differently or how they're going to engage with their customers a bit differently. And I think where that loyalty model is most appropriate is when there is specific behaviors or the specific change or this new things that you're trying to execute as a business, or make your customers aware of, or even your own internal team. And I think that when we talk about the customer a lot, we always think externally, but one of the key things that's going to help your broader business create the best possible experience whenever you do get a connection. And the ability to get connections with customers now is harder than ever. So you want to make sure that your team, who are your brand or are your product, in front of the customer, whether that be over the phone or a text via this kind of mechanism, utilizing and exhibiting kind of those best practice techniques and tools, whether that be in the way they take someone on the road to the sale, or whether it's, as Praddy said, whether it's trying to ensure that you get your trade account paid on time with an external trade customer, or whether that's delivering a particular brand experience out to your customer. Then I think you've got to make sure that your internal team is communicated with as well as your external customer. And I think, again, that's where these kind of solutions can really help, because it can give you a really good one-to-one connection to enable some of those behavior changes to be implemented.
You know, we're talking here about how this applies to the broader industry, and you guys have discussed those great numbers there and those great strategies around test drives and so forth and billing. But I guess the simple question is, if not points, what? I mean, what suggestions do you guys have for those who aren't necessarily selling through your guys' parts programs for parts or so forth? What kind of measures could you suggest that people could use to increase that loyalty, get people in for that test drive? And it makes so much sense to get people in. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some reluctance from people to kind of get out of the house at the moment. But once they are in a yard and in a test drive, we know that the rate, once you've got them into the car, is so much far higher for the sale. But what thoughts do you think people could look at using to encourage that?
I think it's an interesting one, Richard. So, you know, if you look at that top line, you know, what Forbes and stuff report on, you know, they're calling COVID this it's the mega event that, you know, is forcing everyone to speed up their digital sort of strategy, digital adoption. If you think about the old adoption curve, right? We've had a lot of technology in our dealerships and our businesses for a long time, you know, and when we think about it, where are we on the adoption curve with respect to being innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and what is it, laggards, I think the last one is. So now more than ever, a point that Mike touched on is we've got a license to be a bit more digital, I think a bit more, what's the word, not aggressive, persistent in following up. So there's no big secrets here, I think, is the answer I would sort of throw out there. I think we now can challenge ourselves to use technology because the world is going to move a little bit. Don't know how much, but it's definitely going to move a little bit. We see that with our best brands and networks who run lead management. You know, they are touching base with customers countless times until they either convert them or the customer's completely gone away. Even if the customer's said no, sometimes they'll still remarket to them, you know, and spark that customer up back into the funnel at some point in the future. So I think, yeah, technology is only going to come harder and faster. And you think about like what's happening for food and retail. So, you know, Countdown and Pack and Save and all these kind of places, it's all click and collect or, you know, drop-offs for your groceries. We got on-demand media with Netflix and Neon and Lightbox and I don't know, there's probably 1,000 others out there I'm not aware of. Sky Sport, I've always been a Sky customer, but only recently have I been able to subscribe to sport because I don't care about any of the other stuff, you know. So I think our customers are becoming more digital in the way in which they live their own lives. So dealerships, I think we can just get out there and use the tech we've got. Or I've rabbited on there again.
No, I guess what I'm saying is, you know, through your smart loyalty systems, repairers are encouraged to buy genuine parts. I mean, there's a multitude of reasons why people should be using genuine parts, but they're also encouraged to go through that channel by the use of points. If you're talking to your existing database or leads that come through the door and trying to encourage them to come in and test drive a car, I mean, any particular thoughts on what kind of form of loyalty program you could be using or form of bait you could be, bait's a terrible word, but we're going to carrot you could be using to encourage people in? I mean, are we talking about discounts? We're talking about what, you know, offering them a free room on their existing vehicle? What are the ideas around that you guys think could apply? Let's avoid treating customers like fish for a start.
Look, I think I don't know if there's a silver bullet, but I think sometimes we try and overcomplicate it. To be fair, I think you know, I've spoken to a number of dealers and strategies that I'm seeing employed, like picking up the phone, having a conversation, starting with how are you doing, and talking about their customer database. I'm talking about who they're reaching out to as might be their database over the last 12, 24 months and even longer, and using some strategies like that coming from the caring approach of picking up the phone and going, okay, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? As an existing valued customer of ours, we wanted to let you know first about some fantastic offers we've got. And I think people are, it's not going to be everyone, but we've got to be conscious that there's going to be people sitting out there right now, I think, that are going, well, I'm not going to open up my wallet. I got caught through this. I need to build a buffer. So spending's going to be, decreased. But I think there is definitely going to be people out there going, well, surely there's some dealers out there and that have got some stock they want to move. So I think just reaching out to existing customers with a proactive, we're coming to you first, rather than necessarily trying to look for all this new business out there. It goes back to that retention play, to go pick up the phone, talk to them, tell them you want to help. But I think we've also got to be conscious that some people won't want it, and some people are going to, sit on the wallet a bit tighter. But the simple fact, if you do that right, the fact you have reached out and you've come from the angle of understanding how they're going, you're probably, and not pushing them too hard, you probably find you'll have a better retained customer who might refer you on. So again, that's coming back to some really simple selling techniques of using your ears, listening, once you do get a connection with them, then taking on board what they say. I think an offer around a particular offer around vehicles, maybe it's definitely around the understanding the finance situation of some of your customers and go, right, well, I know these customers have got a particular monthly repayment. I might be able to give them some surprise and delight here by keeping same repayment, but giving them an offer around a enhanced vehicle or the upgrade vehicle. I think just having those conversations with offers like that means a lot. Now, whether that you can extend at the same time some service offers and so on, but as Mike said, it doesn't always have to be about points. It's just having an incentive that's relevant to the business. But connecting on those ways, I think, is really relevant. I even had text messages, as I said before, from a couple of dealers that I know where they've gone out to all of their database to say, hey, we're open. I think that the reinforcement of, hey, we're operating in a healthy environment, it's a safe environment, we're a trusted partner for you as a customer, is really key right now. Because I think people are a little cautious about how they're going to either engage digitally to do business, or even getting out of the house and going onto a premises to talk about buying a car or consider a test drive. So the more I think we can extol the virtues of us as a trusted partner, and the relationship with the customer is more important than ever, because people are going to be pretty nervous for a while, I think. And the more we can provide a point of difference that you can trust us, we've got this, we're providing the right environment for us to work together and do business. I think those will be the ones that will survive the best and recover the fastest with their business.
Mm-hmm. Just an observation from my side, and we've seen it with some of the vehicle distributors over the last week. We saw, Hyundai New Zealand put out quite an extensive animated video guide as to how vehicles are sanitized, how the systems work. Trying to reassure them. Mitsubishi put out videos of a similar nature that were recorded, showing specifically where vehicles were being, contact points were being handled, how the handover processes were going to work. And I think even yesterday we had the managing director of Ford New Zealand, Simon Rutherford, go on Facebook Live to explain the situation with the dealerships and how they were going to work. I thought it was really interesting. I'm going to throw one completely left field here to you guys.
Sure,
We've seen a bit of media coverage over the last couple of days about people saying there's going to be these big drops in used car pricing, which there's a lot behind that. I don't think anyone seriously expects numbers to be quite what they were predicted. But we do have comments from some people in fairly high levels of the industry, including, I think you mentioned David Crawford of the MIA, saying that there will be some sharp deals out there. I mean, how do you communicate, or should you be communicating the fact that there are sharp deals out there or on your yard at the moment, without necessarily making it sound like a fire sale, or having price being your only kind of communication with these customers?
I think you had your panel earlier this week. I think some of the survey statistics they pointed to, was it 70% of consumers, like price wasn't the most critical factor in it? Yeah, there's something.
Higher than that, yeah.
It might have been higher than that. Yeah. So there's obviously some interesting stuff there. Look, at the end of the day, sometimes there's going to be other deals in the market that a customer will be playing you off against that you just can't compete with, Not every customer is created equal. One thing I do know is, if I think about, and I don't just want to anchor to autoplay because there's so much like really cool stuff in the after sales world that Smart Loyalty does. But if you think about autoplay, you've got a lot of dealerships have got thousands of leads sitting inside their systems, that are either have gone cold or maybe they've closed, but there's a lot of information on what those customers were interested in. You've also then got a lot of really cool tools like the in-market leads tool, for example, which literally matches other inventory or stock up against previous customer lead inquiries, So you've got a lot of digital tools that are doing a lot of hard work for you right now, or that you could be using right now, to then become very focused in the kind of customers you target, rather than necessarily going in and targeting customers that are going to be completely price conscious. So that's one element. When you can't control what the competition is doing, and there is going to be that environment at some places coming forward, focus on what you can control would be sort of my way to approach that.
Yeah, I think so. Timing is everything with these things, and it does get said a lot, I know, but it is a delicate one, because it can bounce back the other way if you do try and go out with the old bloody fire sale scenario, particularly when people are cautious on spending as well. So that's where I think that it really has to be the one-to-one connection and the one-to-one, the ability as whether it be a salesperson or a service advisor or a parts advisor, to kind of read the room a little bit and have utilize where as best you can that kind of emotional intelligence, or whatever people call it, EQ, I'm not sure, to go. You got to be able to set up the ways to have those conversations, and whether it is digitally or over the phone. And it kind of comes back a little bit to making sure that your house is in order with your team. I think around that your group are armed with the tools they need, and whether it be a script or the talk tracks, to have good conversations with customers. But I think it's got to be a bit one-on-one at the moment, and really going to that existing database, because I think otherwise you do run the risk of it going pear-shaped if you're trying to be out in market with everybody, being too aggressive there. But that's where we're seeing the best outcomes anyway, with those one-to-one connections.
Look, let's look down the track a little bit. We've got at least another couple of weeks of level 3. Then hopefully we go to level 2 and level 1. But that could be a little bit down the track. But we will come out of this one day. As business starts to return, and we look at what the future might be. I mean, how digitally are we going to have to be in the long run? Is the way we are learning to trade now going to be the new normal? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Hey, look, I think it's $1 billion question a little bit there, Richard. Hey, look, I don't know. My personal opinion is, we're social creatures by nature. I think there will definitely be components, and there already have been components of how we do business that will be changed forever. And I think some of those things stem to, people's appetite to operate digitally, and whether that be suppliers and customers, how they interact, whether the ability to maybe do less face-to-face in that environment. But I think sometimes we overestimate how digital things will go. I think there will be a craving, and you see it now, even though, sometimes it might be related to people wanting to go out and get their favorite fast food or takeaway, but people want to get out and interact. And I think critically, we've got to keep, and I won't try and get on too much of a soapbox here, but I think it's really important that as a society, we do find ways to enable face-to-face interaction as we go forward. Now, there will definitely be, more digital tools in play to help people do smarter business and be more efficient and get access to better opportunities, whether it be buying products or services. But I think, as I said, humanity will crave a bit of face-to-face, and I think that's a good thing. I think the sooner we can get a vaccine for this thing, the better. And I'm really hopeful that face-to-face remains and becomes another big part of who we are and how we operate. I think what will happen through this time will be potentially the making and breaking of some relationships, though, in terms of how businesses deal with this, with their partners and with their customers. I look at that as an opportunity to say, through adversity, you can really create some special things coming out the other side, and it gives you a chance to separate yourself from the pack when it comes to your relationships. But yeah, I think face-to-face is still going to be a big part of who we are as a culture. It's just making sure that the digital tools are in the right place to make life easier, as they always have. But it doesn't. Hopefully, one day we can all shake hands again and look each other in the eye, as far as I'm concerned.
But before I move to the next question, just to those of you viewing, we are getting near the end of the time here, and just want to open up the opportunity for anyone who has questions they'd like to ask Mike or Mike. If you put them in either the question and answer function at the bottom of the screen, or in the chat function on the side, depending on how you've got your screen formatted. If you're watching on YouTube, you can ask questions through the chat function on the YouTube video, or you can also email them to me at richard@automediagroup.co.nz. I've got that all live in front of me. As we go on this time, I mean, how do we balance? How would you guys look at balancing the kind of digital and in-person strategy for long-term success once we get through this? And I'm going to bring this back to a recent seminar we had here as well, and that's that when we're speaking to Graham Taylor Edwards and discussing that some salespeople may not necessarily thrive in this kind of new digital environment as well as they possibly did in a on the forecourt face-to-face with customers kind of thing. I mean, should everyone be throwing their whole basket towards digital now, perhaps moving those staff into other roles and really promoting and pushing their digital forward sales staff, or will we still need that balance as we get forward 6-7 months down the track?
I think I'll give Mike a breather. I think it's I'd throw my foot in the conservative camp and just say it's kind of it's right up the middle there, Richard, to kind of to play a bit of both camps there. But like Mark Group, part of our sort of vision mantra, like what we try and lead out through our various businesses, is maintaining the human element. There's so much technology out there, and at the end of the day, people like relationships. So we kind of see technology as a way to build relationships, and the human element can come through there by doing something as brazen as sending a video, with your voice on it, detailing a car to the customer, so that when they do come in face to face, they've heard your voice before, or, talking to them on the phone. So I don't necessarily think it's anything too crazy there, but I don't know. What are your thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, look, I think I've seen in our business more focus on development and looking at how we do things, and also getting things done that we've talked about for a long time. I think COVID, if there's anything positive to come out of this thing, has really been that willingness, and you're reading it all over the place too, where businesses are saying, okay, we're squeezing this in to a time frame now. We've got to get some things done here. So I think having a digital strategy, I think, is really important, and having a focus on it is really important. So I think I would definitely be recommending doing that. But it's about finding tools to help do that best. And I think that will be the other thing that will come out of this is what are the best practice tools that are at your disposal right now as a business that you could be utilizing, and the tools to drive that best practice behavior. But not only that, but I think visualize and understand what's going on both in the business and with your customer. So customer sentiment, ways that you can understand how they're feeling and how they're doing, again, comes down to that ability to personalize. But I think the tools, the digital tools that are out there are what will define that next period for dealerships, because it's going to be there's going to be change. But I think it's prompting getting a little smarter in some ways for some around how they do business. Whether that's prompting a bit of a changing of the guard, maybe on some previous techniques and so on. Okay, well, maybe we do need to rethink it and look at ways that we can get better visualization on what we're doing internally. But I think it's those kind of components digitally that'll be quite key, that will support better face-to-face interaction as well, as opposed to necessarily everything moving digital. I think it's the tools that help rather than anything else.
What I'm kind of taking from some of that is that, you guys at the start of the COVID thing, paused a lot of development in order to focus on your customers. I suspect when we come out of this out the other end, your list of development projects is going to be longer than it's ever been, because so many things have kind of been.
Oh, yeah, yes, I'd say kind of yes and no. Like what we find with the products we have, and I know we're kind of harking back to what we've got as tools, but we're in a reasonably good position, I think, in that the tools we have are kind of almost like designed for this kind of environment. For us, we find now it's all about, as Pratty alluded to, the human element that we can bring to help our partners use the tools and embed them in their business maybe a little better, and maybe pay a bit more attention to the tools that they have within the solutions to go, oh yeah, I could be using that. How could I use that tool a bit better now? Loyalty is a classic one for that. Sometimes it can become a bit of a set and forget, whereas if it's a tool that's used, then you get the maximum benefit. So it's actually shining a light, I think, Richard, on what is in the solutions that we have right now. Don't get me wrong, we're evolving and developing all the time, but we're really finding with a lot of our key customers and customers in general that they're saying, geez, help me use this tool better now than I ever have, because it's a great way for me to talk a different message or bring something positive to my customers rather than just trying to sell them something all the time. I've got something positive I can talk about, or help me use the autoplay tool for best practice pre-sales techniques, so I can maximize every contact point. So I think it's really shining that light more than anything on how to use those tools a bit better, if that makes some sense.
Mm-hmm. Now, people seem a little bit shy on the Q&A today, so I'm just going to throw out one question there before we wrap up, completely off script, just burning a hole in my mind. You guys have now had AutoPlay as part of your group for a bit over a year, going on 2 years.
Yep, correct. Yep.
Expanded into very much more into that dealer space, but you've got that fantastic learning and tools in there from your loyalty product business. Have you been looking at how that kind of points loyalty system stuff can apply more at a retail dealer end, be that for dealers selling cars through to even just dealers getting service done or selling parts of their own from their own outlets? Anything we might see from there in the future, or anything that's being thought about?
Yeah, well, hey, there was definitely a thesis when AutoPlay joined the Mark family, and that was very closely tied to smart loyalty. So there's some really cool product integration happening between the two businesses. So I already threw the teams under the bus the last time I talked, so I won't do that this time. But yeah, there's some cool stuff coming to market that'll be like, world first, hasn't been done before, that we're pretty excited about. So in a roundabout kind of way, it's a case of yes-ish, watch this space.
Fantastic. Best people for anyone who's watching to talk to if they want any more information from you guys. Here's your chance to throw out the phone numbers, website, whatever works for you.
Yeah, we'll throw our contact details, and maybe if we've got any literature or articles or anything that supports anything we've covered today, we'll see if we can throw that into the mix as well when you send a note out to everyone that joined.
Yeah, no,
Richard, but otherwise, Mark Group in New Zealand or through our 2 business units, our great teams at AutoPlay and at Smart Loyalty.
Fantastic. Yep. No, Deborah, the wonderful person you're registered to attend through this, will be sending out this video link and any material that may come with it out to the market hopefully this afternoon, if not tomorrow morning, which is really important now because we know that a lot of people are struggling to get all their team in front of the video screen at the moment with people being back to business, and we think that's a great reason for missing a video. But the great thing about it is people can watch them anytime. So thank you very much for attending. Thank you, Mike and Mike, for coming along today. And we will announce tomorrow out to a mark of your email what the next week's sessions will be. But working on some pretty cool stuff for Tuesday and Thursday next week. So thanks, everyone. Great to be back in trade, and we'll see you soon.
Good stuff, Richard. Thanks, team.
Cheers, guys.